speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. My big mama used to say that there are 24 hours in a day, 12 hours to mind your business, and 12 hours to leave other folks' business alone. So, let's talk about our business, Crenshaw business. For over 5 years now, the good people of the Crenshaw corridor have lived in a gated community, but not by choice. Gates, fences, barricades, limited street access, closed lots, and then some. By now, you've heard the stories from the folk who've lived this nightmare. Business owners have lost customers. A charter school lost students. A veterinarian lost clients. Churches have lost members. And still, Procrastination Crenshaw sits unfinished. And when I say sits unfinished, I mean sits unfinished. Nobody was seduced by the Jedi mind trick they tried to play when they ran that headline on the front page of a local black newspaper about the project restarting in weeks. I mean, come see for yourself. The only trucks on Crenshaw are deconstruction trucks. It took a minute, but to her credit, LA Mayor Karen Bass showed up and she's leaning in on getting our parking back. But think about this for just a second. LA is not Chocolate City, and yet we are blessed to have a black mayor and a black city council president. But where is the black city council president? Where is Marquise Harris Dawson? This is his project in his district, but he has been strangely quiet. Did you notice in the recent Los Angeles Times story about Procrastination Crenshaw that neither Marquise Harris Dawson nor Destination Crenshaw had a word to say on the record? The silence was deafening. When people ask me why the silence, all I can say is, good question. As a reminder, the Crenshaw Corridor community sent him a letter, and it laid out real demands. A public timeline, relief for the businesses that have suffered, and an audit. At the moment, the last one matters most, the audit. Here's the thing, the foundation money, the private donations, that's their business. But this project is also funded by city money, state money, and federal money. I refer you back to the front page story in that black newspaper where they all talked about this. Go read it again. In any event, it's your money. And when public money goes into a $100 million project that still sits unfinished, the public has a right to see where every dollar went. Contracts, budgets, payments, schedules. That's not too much to ask. Again, it's your money. Our letter gave Mr. Harris Dawson a deadline, Friday, September 4th, to respond. The clock is ticking, Mr. President. 12 hours to mind the public's business. And this is one of them. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
How did you want it?
All's my life I has to fight. All's my life hard times like bad trips like Nazareth, I'm f***ed up, homie, you f***ed up. But if God got us, then we gon' be alright.
We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Huh? We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? We gon' be alright.
And when I wake up, I recognize you looking at me for the pay cut. Bahamas, I be looking at you from the face down. One Mac 11, even boom with the bass down. Scheming, and let me tell you about my life. Painkillers only put me in the twilight. With pretty Benjamin is the highlight. Now tell my mama I love her, but this what I like. Lord knows, 20 of them in my Chevy. Tell them all to come and get me, reaping everything I sow. So my karma come in heaven, no preliminary hearings on my record. I'm a gangster in silence for the record. Tell the world I knew it's too late. Boys and girls, I think I've gone crazy. Trying to side my faces all day. Won't you please believe when I say, when you know we've been hurt, been down before. When our pride was low, looking at the world like, where do we go? And we hate po-po when the killer's dead in the street for sure. I'm at the preacher's door, my knees getting weak and my gun might blow, but we gon' be alright.
KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dominique DePrima. And you can stream us if you want to see us at YouTube on KBLA 1580, on Facebook. Very happy to welcome into the show a community activist. She is a leader with Students Deserve. She's also a member of Black Lives Matter LA. And she is the cousin, sadly enough, of Keith Porter Jr. Jsane Tyler, welcome.
Hi, Dominique. Thank you for having me. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, I do hear you. Yeah, I know. That's a little tricky, but we're going to do the best we can here. Right now, it sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I try to, we try to keep saying your cousin's name, and I want to start off by saying, all these months later that I'm really sorry for your loss, it's not even for your, I say loss, but it was really a theft of his life.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dominique. You have been really supportive in helping keep Keith's name out here, to keep our fight for justice out here. And so, I'm really grateful to you, and I'm really grateful to our community.
And the community has stepped up. I've noticed people, in on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere, even, in different debates and conversations, raising your cousin's name, because there's so much conversation about ICE and ICE out of control and the killings of people, including U.S. citizens. And for some reason, people either don't know or they just don't include the name of Keith Porter Jr., and the community is not having it.
Right. It's sad because, again, and I hate, to say this because I don't want to take away from the loss of life, of Alex Pretty or Renee Good, but it still goes to serve to show that even in the theft of our lives, we're still mistreated and mishandled. He was the first U.S. citizen murdered by ICE, and like you said, 8 months later, a vast majority of people are still just now finding out about it, and I just turned 49 this past Saturday. And
Happy
so I'm
birthday.
a 49-year-old. Oh, thank you. I'm a 49-year-old Black woman in this country that's been around, quite a bit. And I've experienced a lot. And this is still, part of institutionalized racism is the part of how they see us or how they don't value us. If this would have been, sad to say, Renee Good or Alex Pretty on New Year's Eve, the world would have known about it.
Yeah. That's sad, but it is actually true. I mean, the fact that this man was actually, I say this man, but it's your cousin, was actually at home in his own apartment complex, and he was a dad, a girl dad, a worker, gainfully employed man with who's a U.S. citizen with no kind of immigration, anything pending anywhere, born here, raised here, and is murdered by an ICE individual. You would think that would be on the front of papers all across this country in leading news reports. I mean, I just can't think of any other explanation other than the fact that he's a Black man.
Yeah, and they tried to erase it. They tried to act like it didn't happen. Even in the initial reports that did come out, they never named him. And when they did name him, they've murdered him again. They've assassinated him twice because that has been put out by DHS is a false narrative. We know that there was no shootout. We know that he was minding his own business on New Year's Eve. We know that, this false narrative of, there was this gun exchange, but people heard three shots fired. Well, yes, people heard 3 shots fired. They heard the 3 bullets that went into my cousin.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and the reason I say that is because I was reading the LA Times article, actually, that came out after the meeting with the district attorney this week. And they're still holding on to this. They're still floating that out there. They say, well, a law enforcement official said that there were shots or markings from shots behind Brian Palacios, the ICE agent. So that means that Keith Porter discharged his weapon towards him. But they don't say what law enforcement agency. They don't name the person who says that. And they don't back up the fact that that's been verified. They just repeat the claim, something that was said, at the time. And to me, that's irresponsible journalism, because how can we even verify it if you're not even going to say which agency is making these claims?
Right. And, I saw the news reports, and I was hoping that maybe they would have dropped that part of the narrative. But I have seen it on Channel 5, Channel 2, Channel 7, and they're all hanging on to this narrative, and we know that ballistically this has already been proven to be not factual. So
yeah. So they can just say anything, basically, is what you're telling me.
They can say what they want to. And had they not continued to run with this narrative as recent as this past Monday, I probably wouldn't have still brought it up. But here we are, even though we don't have the full story out, even though we have witnesses that are scared for their lives and so they haven't come forward to law enforcement, there is enough out, though, that has corroborated the false narrative of this fake gun battle, of this fake exchange.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing that seems really suspect to me, Janae, is that if the LAPD just completed their investigation, right? And the DA has the case. If, in fact, there were bullet holes or markings behind Brian Palacios and they had any solid proof that Keith Porter Jr. was shooting at the ICE agent, Trump would be talking about it. The Department of Homeland Security would be talking about it. It would have been the headline with the release of the LAPD report. And the DA would have been talking about it. So to me, the fact that they are not and they're leaving that job to the press means that it's a lie.
Exactly. You know how they work. You know how they move. They would have been all over this, so we know that it's a false narrative, and you're exactly correct. They would have had their aha, I gotcha moment.
Yep.
So.
But instead, so why is the LA Times and why are these TV news outlets doing their dirty work? There's no evidence of this claim by an alleged law enforcement that you won't even name. So why are you repeating it? That is called spreading rumors. That is not responsible journalism.
Not at all. My mom is so funny. She's been staying with me for a few weeks, and she reminded me, she was bragging actually to somebody else. But I was reminded that as a youth, I actually had the privilege of doing my own journalism and reporting as well on the local news station. When I was probably from the age of 11 to 13 or 14, I used to investigate my own stories and report on the local Compton cable station.
Yes.
And so I just think about me, even as an 11 to 13 and a half year old, being way more responsible in getting factual statements and reports and reporting correctly out of respect for the families that were involved in the articles, and at this point it's really disrespectful. But I want to shift gears a little bit, just to say that it's even more disrespectful that they're continuing to assassinate Keith in the news, yet Brian Palacios is running free out in Oxnard, and so I have a huge problem with that.
Yeah.
I have a huge problem with that.
Yeah. We're talking with Jsane Tyler, and I do want to get into that because it's giving George Zimmerman, in my opinion. Jsane Tyler is the cousin of Keith Porter Jr. Also want to find out, your thoughts on the meeting with the district attorney this week. We're talking about Keith Porter Jr. and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Asata Umoja. I'm with the Hyde Park Organizational Partnership for Empowerment, which is at the southern end of Crenshaw. And this community has been greatly impacted. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we're most concerned about is just being totally neglected. And what I mean is being excluded from the process. When this project first started, they should have made sure that our organization, since we were most impacted, was in there. So we've been excluded, and we've seen commercial properties be taken for art projects. And we're very concerned about these are spaces that could help build economic growth and development in the community. And what this community needs more of is economic development, not art. I mean, I like art. It's a good thing. But they're putting the cart before the horse. Because without a solid economic foundation, what they are calling cultural tourism absolutely has no significance and no meaning. And this community is going under if we don't stop and do something to help build that economic foundation and support the businesses that are the tax base for this community to build the kind of services that we need. And the response from our leadership is totally inadequate.
Holding them accountable. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Roger and Tracey saved over $18,400. Cynthia was recovering from a family tragedy and saved over $10,300. If you are drowning in debt, then call Debt Blue. Debt Blue is a professional debt negotiation firm with over 20 years of experience helping people pay back a fraction of what they owe. Learn how to cut your debt up to half or maybe more. Be debt-free in 24 to 48 months, even with bad credit. With an A+ rating from the BBB, you can rest easy knowing Debt Blue is going to deliver guaranteed debt reduction. Debt Blue offers a success guarantee. You pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved. That's right. You save money or it's free. Call now for significant debt relief and a free consultation. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879. You don't have to declare bankruptcy. This program works if you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in debt. Call for your free consultation today. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Talking with Jsane Tyler. She's a cousin of Keith Porter and a longtime activist, active with Black Lives Matter LA Students Deserve. And Jsane, you started to talk about Brian Palacios, the shooter, the off-duty ICE agent. From what I know of this story from talking to you, talking to people at the vigil, the very first vigil that we did for him, and including some of the folks that live in that building, if in fact Palacios went back into his apartment, changed into his tactical gear, came out and shot your cousin, that's premeditation. So why is this man running around free? It reminds me of George Zimmerman.
Right. You know, Dominique, and then of course he has ICE. You know, he's an ICE agent. You know, he's protected by, you know, this big DHS machine. And it sucks that they've unleashed them on our American people. You know, I'm going to keep saying that even based under California law, this is an individual that would never be allowed to own a gun. Like, I have a gun. I am a Second Amendment Black woman, I like to say. I have a legal firearm, and I know what the criteria is. I used to, you know, give guards their licenses. And with our security guards, they had to pass, you know, certain vetting to be an armed officer. And this man has a history on record of child abuse, of being racist, of being homophobic. You know, this man put out a gun at a child's soccer game. You know, he's had children removed from the home. How did they unleash this man on the American public? But this is what they called for when they put out those commercials for, you know, ICE agents, you know, no experience necessary. We know the type of people that answered that call. Yeah. We know the people that, you know, answered that call already had it purposed in their heart, you know, that anybody that is not, you know, cisgendered, white, male, down with their, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Their white patriotism, that fake patriotism, you know, that they have this myth that they've been so emboldened by under this Trump regime, you know, that those are the people that answered the call to this, you know, for these positions. And these people make more than I do, and I work in education, you know. So this is sad that they unleashed racists on the American public. And as it still stands that evening, like you said, I'm glad you uplifted all he went through to come back out there and kill my cousin. And I have had the privilege of knowing what the eyewitness testimony is. These people are too fearful to come forward because of Trump and because of ICE, but they've spoken to us. They've spoken to family members. They've spoken to people, you know, connected to this case. And, you know, even initially what we reported, and it still wouldn't have been an excuse. You know, initially, you know, it was said that Pooter went out to do what the colonizers taught us to do, celebrate with gunshots in the air on New Year's Eve. But as it stands, he was not even the person that shot in the air that night. He was not even the person whose bullets going up in the air that Brian Palacios heard. And we've kind of found that out because the person that was shooting in the air has now ran and fled for their life. But Pooter did what he always does, saw his neighbors, saw the family and the kids out there shooting fireworks, engaged with his neighbors, decided he was too drunk to even lift up the dang old gun, and was actually on his way walking back to his apartment, which is why he was only 10 steps away from his back door when he was caught out and then murdered.
So terrible. It's really terrible. I'm sorry for you and for your family. And I, you know, and I've said this a couple times, I'll say it again. At that vigil that I went to at his Northridge apartment building, the amount of love that people in the building and people that worked with him, white people, lots of Latinos and lots of black folks were expressing was so overwhelming and heartfelt. I mean, clearly this is a person who people loved.
Yes. You know, it wasn't just us as his family. I know that, unfortunately we have, so many justice families now, and we always, hear people get up and talk about how good their relatives were and how kind they were, and they can't believe this happened. It's almost, I'm giving a little bit of my age, but like I said, I already told it. It's almost like we hear the people, the old, my baby ain't never hurt nobody, but he still got smoked at Bebe's party. Right. But in this case,
so crazy.
As in a lot of cases with our justice families, we know that these were actually great human beings.
Yeah.
We know that these were people who were loved by their community. We know that these were people who spread joy. We know that these were men that took care of their children. We know that these were men who extended that love to their neighbors, and to everyone around them. It's like they're taking our brightest light. They're taking the people who actually make this world better for others. They're taking the people that actually spread kindness, that actually, lift others up. They're taking the pillars of our community. They're taking the role models away from these children. They're snatching them. They don't want us to have people to look up to. They don't want my 14-year-old godson to have male role models,
Yeah.
It's sad.
How are his daughters doing? I almost hate to ask it because they lost their father.
Right. And as a daughter that lost my father, they'll never be okay. They're trying to move through it, and this is so fresh still for them that is different day to day.
Yeah.
My heart bleeds for them because it's been over 40 years since my father left me, and it has not gone away. Through every rites of passage, through different stages of life, the fact that he'll never meet his granddaughter, who is amazing, who does extraordinary things. And now these, Keith will never be here for his baby. He was his mom's best friend. And even as his mother, she's still growing and transitioning. And he won't be here for those family moments anymore. He was stolen from us. And 8 months later, now that his case is finally with the DA's office, it's still no closer to a charge being filed, arrest being made. So at this point, I don't know, Dominique. It took until July 1st for it to make it to the DA's office. I've been contacted by the Integrity Division to try to come in and at least give written statements to what the actual witnesses are scared to come forward and say. And I don't know how much that'll help, but the head of that department has at least asked, because I have knowledge of, even though it's considered hearsay, the fact that I have knowledge of what really happened that night. Now they've asked, if we can find a time for me to actually come down and put that in writing as my official statement. But in the meeting on Monday, the results that came back from the attorney is that DA Hichman is still refusing to press charges. He's saying that there's going to be a long road for the investigation and that they still don't have enough evidence. And that's bullcrap. And so at this point, we're going to push for a grand jury indictment.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more and get some more details of the meeting after News, Traffic, and Sports. DA Hichman also said there were no witnesses, which is curious. Love to get your response to that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says he wants the United States to remain the global leader in cryptocurrency and technology.
New financial technologies are extending this American dominance into the 21st century, and that's why we're focused on creating a clear regulatory framework.
Speaking at the White House, Trump highlighted support for Bitcoin and digital assets as officials launch a new advisory committee. Former Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykin has filed a complaint accusing Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas of intimidation and official misconduct. Boykin, who is black, alleges the dispute stemmed from criticism of Pappas's mayoral ambitions, while Pappas has defended her actions. And frustration is growing in Northwest Indiana as nearly 92,000 NIPSCO customers remain without power. Some residents have been in the dark for more than a week while utility crews race to restore service and community groups step in to provide food assistance. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers swept their three-game series at Colorado. They beat Colorado 6-4 Wednesday night in 10 innings. Mookie Betts was 3 for 5 at the plate with a homer and an RBI single in the 10th. The Dodgers picked up a game on Milwaukee for the best record in Major League Baseball. They trailed Milwaukee by only a game and a half. Milwaukee lost last night to Seattle. The Board of Regents at HBCU Texas Southern University voted to approve the hiring of men's basketball coach Corey Lowry, a former assistant at Seton Hall. Lowry is not the coach the players and students wanted. They wanted interim coach Sharon Chapman to keep the job. The entire team joined a large group of students on Tuesday for a protest outside the administration office. It'll be interesting to see what their next move will be and how they react to the Board of Governors' decision. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Where the overlooked become unmissable, this is KBLA Talk 1580.
Don't let heartburn ruin your day. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. When that burning feeling comes on strong, stop, drop, and fizz your way to quick relief with Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief. Nothing works faster to help calm heartburn, so you can get back to the moments that matter most. Alka-Seltzer begins neutralizing acid in seconds. Try Alka-Seltzer for fast heartburn relief, because life doesn't stop, and neither should you.
Quick, Alka-Seltzer.
Use as directed.
This is the story of the one who keeps multiple buildings running smoothly day after day. Plumbing that flows, HVAC that hums, cleaning supplies that keep surfaces sparkling. That's why she counts on Grainger. With easy reordering online and 24/7 support, Grainger helps her keep the products she needs on hand. So shelves stay stocked and buildings stay ready. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Deon Raymond, Justice Correspondent and host of the Justice Files. For years, LA City Councilman Curran Price has served his district. And for years, he's been under a legal cloud which, frankly, looks thinner every time it's tested in court. Last Friday, a Superior Court judge refused to throw out the corruption case against Price. That's true. But listen to what the judge actually said while doing it. Judge Larry Paul Fiddler called this not a great case. Not our words, his. Price's attorney, standing right there in the courtroom, said it plainly. In denying our motion, the court acknowledged that this is not a great case. We agree. Now, that's not a ringing endorsement of a prosecution. That's a judge saying, essentially, there's just enough here to send it to a jury. Barely. The ruling itself says nothing about guilt. It's not proof of wrongdoing. What it is a low bar, cleared by a thin margin, on evidence the court itself has called circumstantial. Councilman Price has pleaded not guilty. He denies the allegations. And after 3 terms representing his district, he's term limited and on his way out of office, regardless of how this case ends, which raises a fair question. What exactly is served? By dragging a longtime champion for working families in South Los Angeles through a trial that even the presiding judge doesn't sound confident about. We're not saying elected officials should not be held accountable. They should. But accountability means something different from a prosecution that struggles to convince the very judge overseeing it. Curran Price deserves his day in court, and he deserves the presumption of innocence any one of us would want for ourselves or a loved one, especially when the bench itself has doubts. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Deon Raymond, Justice Correspondent and host of the Justice Files. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
You are. We're talking with Jsane Tyler, the cousin of Keith Porter Jr., who was killed on New Year's Eve by Brian Palacios, allegedly, the off-duty ICE agent who was living in the same building in Northridge. Jsane, you have said that Brian Palacios, who's now been named, he was, kind of outed by the community, but now been named by several journalism outlets, is still on the loose and in Oxnard. Does that mean he's still functioning as an ICE agent?
He is. What that means, I don't have full detail
That's
of whether
crazy.
he is outside or at a desk, but he is definitely still employed by ICE and relocated to Oxnard.
That is wild. And so the family did meet with DA Nathan Hichman. You said the attorney says, well, Hichman is not committing to bringing charges. He did say that to the press. He said that he doesn't usually meet with families, but he's been given the high-profile nature of the case, and the attorney was pressing him to meet. That he decided to meet. My interpretation of that is because of the public outcry around this case. They took the meeting, but what can you tell us about that meeting?
I want to just say, and because we've been showing up everywhere he is. So DA Hichman has been getting no peace either. He decided to come into the black community at one of the blackest schools in LA to have a community forum about his decision to start incarcerating children, to start charging youth as adults again. And so we have been haunting him in real time. So, yes, he feels compelled for that reason as well.
So
the meeting with DA Hichman on Monday was no different than the meeting that myself and Christopher DeAndre's mom had alongside BLMLA attorneys and community back in January. It was no different. He still had nothing more to say. He had nothing more to offer, and just said that this investigation would take them some time and there would be a long road ahead.
I don't get it. The LAPD completed their investigation. Now the DA is doing another investigation?
Because part of the problem is that LA Homicide didn't actually do a diligent investigation. We've been waiting this entire time for ballistic reports to come back and toxicology reports to come back. The ballistic reports came back months ago, but we were waiting on toxicology reports, which I say is insane and crazy that we're waiting on toxicology reports of the victim who we know was celebrating and minding his own business in the comfort of his own home. But even the night of the murder, going back to LAPD homicide, never following protocol, Brian Palacios was never given a sobriety test. He was never given a substance test. He never had to surrender his service pistol. What happens even when there's an officer-involved shooting never took place that night. And so I say all of that to say, even if an ICE agent was actually a law enforcement agent, which they are not, no protocols were followed. And so the fact that we're waiting all of these months for the victim's toxicology report,
that is crazy.
Is insane to me.
That is crazy.
The perpetrator, the murderer, the person that pulled the trigger was never tested for substances. Who the witnesses that were there say that he came back running through that complex. The first time he came running through the complex, they said they were wondering what was wrong with him. He looked a little off. He looked deranged. He looked like he was on substances. And when he came back out in his tactical gear, they said he looked like a deranged person that was hunting someone down, that was out of their mind, either liquored up or on some kind of drugs. Not marijuana, not herb, not shrooms, but some type of hard substances. And this man went back into his home and slept like a baby that night. So the fact that we waited 7 months for Keith's toxicology report,
that's a botched investigation, to put it kindly.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so what you got from the DA was basically more kind of stalling, saying, okay, it's going to be a long road ahead, and there's no commitment to any kind of follow-up or even taking Palacios in for questioning, never mind arresting him, nothing like that.
Right. Now, mind you, Palacios is suing. He's attempting to sue and go after the person who he thinks gave us his name and the opportunity to make his name public. You know, there's so much irony involved in this case that it's just becoming ridiculous at this point, but it's hurtful. And that hurt, that pain is really like fueling my fire at this point, because at the very least, even without eyewitness testimony coming forward to them, they have enough auditory testimony. They have enough testimony of what people heard that matches the ballistics of the scene to actually make an arrest. You know, but again, from the beginning, they never followed protocol. They wanted to sweep this under the rug. They wanted to make it seem like this never happened. The reason even going back to their LAPD's failure of the initial call, doing what they were supposed to do, following protocols, is because from the very beginning, they didn't even want smoke with ICE. And so if there's no report, then it didn't happen. They didn't count on Keith being connected to a cousin that doesn't fold, that has seen this over and over again done to other families, and was not going to have this done to my cousin.
So the family is asking, at least according to the media, mainstream media, for a grand jury, for this to go to a grand jury, which I guess, according to the Hochman's office, would be unusual, but they haven't ruled it out. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, it would be unusual for L.A. County because you know that we've had a series of DAs who don't want to prosecute killer cops, who are in the pockets of police associations, who are scared of, the police unions, who are scared of these police gangs. So, yeah, in L.A., it would be unprecedented, but it's not unprecedented, and it's actually something that's a viable means of having someone indicted.
I mean, it's ironic because that's exactly what they're doing, with Nolan Wells.
Right.
And even though it's a secret grand jury, so maybe they're using it to stall and hide evidence in that particular case, they're still doing it.
But, yeah, they use it as a tool for them. In California, they just don't do anything. And that's the history of the DAs that have come through L.A., from Jackie Lacey, to Eric Garcetti. Hell, even Kamala as, state district attorney. She was very problematic here in California. So, yeah, in California, it might seem a little, I'll say different, but it is actually a viable tool that we can use to at least start moving this forward. We've asked for Attorney General Rob Bonta to put forth a special investigator, so there's been no word back with that. So there's a lot of moving parts now to where it seems like our attorney, I'll take a step back and say our attorney is very smart. He's very good at his job. And he takes on a lot of tough cases, and I think that this is one, for the books. But I have faith in him. The family has faith in him that we're going through the next steps at the same time that we're still pleading with and demanding this our Attorney General Nathan Hichman to do the right thing, the person that's over the integrity department within the DA's office. We will continue to push forward. So, yeah, requesting a grand jury indictment. There is a lawsuit pending, of DHS, and we're still pleading with Attorney General Rob Bonta to send out a special investigator. And at the same time, as far as community, we do have a live petition going to continue to put pressure on them to do right by Keith.
The attorney you were referring to is Jamal Tucson. The petition is where?
So the petition is live. It's on tinyurl.com. We've been spreading it via social media. But if, I might as well say it now. The petition right now, calling for them to make an arrest and file the charges now that it is with the DA's office, It's tinyurl.com/Keith Porter Justice.
Keith Porter Justice.
Yes. And so the first petition we had, pushing that we presented to police commission several months ago, that initially got rejected, but they ended up having to accept, had over 20,000 signatures.
Yeah, I signed that one. I haven't signed this one yet.
Yeah, so I am pushing for at least 20,000 signatures on this one as well. It is the people, it is the community that have forced them to do their job. And even though they're doing it, at a snail's pace, we're just going to keep our foot on the gas and keep forcing their hand until we get justice for Keith.
Yeah, signing it now, tinyurl.com. Keith Porter Justice. Why is the district attorney saying there were no witnesses? You and others have said that there are people, but they're just afraid to come forward. And then the DA, maybe, I don't know, in the same hour or within the same press cycle said if there are witnesses, they need to come forward, but also said there are no witnesses.
Because he's been aware this whole time. We've not kept that a secret. We've been very forthcoming about the fact that there are witnesses that are afraid for their lives. They don't trust Trump. They saw how quickly, they watch the news too. It happened in their apartment complex. It happened in their home. They have children. They have families. And so they saw the initial report where DHS quickly made up this false narrative about this fake shootout, and they saw the people that came in through their building in the weeks following. And so they're scared. They're fearful. They're very fearful. And like I said, the one person that could probably even speak to the fact that Keith never even fired the celebratory shot is MIA, completely in the wind now, because he was physically attacked. And I can't say too much about that, but he was physically attacked, and now he has disappeared.
You can't say much about it, but it was in relation to this case?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Had not heard that. So no one knows where this person is at this point?
No.
Wow. We're talking with Jsane Tyler. She is the cousin of Keith Porter Jr., who was murdered on New Year's Eve by an off-duty ICE agent. Allegedly, Brian Palacios, got to say that, but it's clear that that is allegedly what happened. We'll continue the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Khalifa Bey. I am the founder of the South LA Bureau of Tourism and Trade. And how this is impacting me is that I can't promote it. I won't promote it. I hear a lot of talk about everybody. Accountability is responsibility. Change your vote. Change the vote. I know there's a lot of Democrats in this room, and I get all that, but if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, it ain't gonna happen. And it's not about Democrat, Republican, it's about getting what we need to get done. That's what it is for me, because this is deliberate. This of our communities, you look at Chicago, you look at all the black communities were built by us, we're in the same condition. So to me, it's by design. And if we don't do something to change the vote to get to what we need, stop having these meetings.
Making sure they stick to the truth. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you feeling the heat? LADWP can help you stay cool this summer and save money. Through the Cool LA program, eligible customers can receive instant rebates of up to $275 on new portable, window, and wall air conditioners. Shop the Cool LA Marketplace today and beat the heat and save. Learn more and apply at ladwp.com/cool-LA. That's ladwp.com/cool-LA.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor, and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
As Jsane Tyler pointed out, she's Keith Porter Jr.'s cousin, but she's also a longtime activist. I'm sure, as I did, you celebrated yesterday on the Carmelo Anthony case, a young man who was defending himself, practicing self-defense, now sentenced to 35 years. Judge Sid Harley, granted a defense motion to recuse that judge, removing him from any further legal action, appeals or anything. So he will no longer be part of that trial. The judge said that his impartiality could reasonably be challenged. A whole bunch of activists were there from all over the country, Black Lives Matter, and others, and it was a victory on yesterday. You've been an activist for quite some time. I know, worked on getting Jackie Lacey out here in Los Angeles. Do you see things getting better, the public getting more conscious about these cases? And do you think that any of this is impacting the situation with your cousin, Keith Porter Jr., who was allegedly murdered by an off-duty ICE officer?
Yes and no. I see it a little differently. What I see is a swell. Every so many years, a swell happens where Black people get fed up, where enough is enough. And unfortunately, it takes a stack of bodies and a stack of, folk. And when I say a stack of bodies, I mean dead and in jail, wrongfully stolen in both ways. And then we hit this pressure peak, and then we explode. It's what happened, in Chicago. It's what happened in Watts 1965. It's what happened in L.A. 1992. It's what happened, in 2013. It's what happened, in 2020. And so I feel it's on the cusp of another awakening, because I call them awakenings. Yeah,
that makes sense. So. And it feels that way to me too. I mean, between Baby Cohen and your cousin and, Cyrus Carmack Belton, and they just, like you said, it's a stack. They just keep piling up. It does feel like what you're calling an awakening or a swell. Is that impacting Keith Porter Jr. and I know you told us to sign the petition. I just did, tinyurl.com/Keith Porter Justice. What are the calls to action, and how is this swell or awakening impacting the case of Keith Porter Jr.?
What is happening is now, thank God for the internet, more is coming up in the algorithm of people who never knew about this case. Because as they're facing their own victimization, as they're facing what they find injustice, they're now either being fed it through the algorithms of Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, or they're going down the rabbit hole on their own, and now it's popping up.
Yeah.
And so now as we see, our babies being hung from trees, all over the South again, and baby, Cullen Wiley and Nolan Wells, and, you know, even going back to Cinco de Augusto, you know, the Alabama brawl, you know, it was like, you know, this is not happening on our watch today, you know. And so I really believe that the fact that now all of this is happening so close together, back to back to back to back to back to back to back, all of the injustices are now being fed into our algorithms, and more people are aware now of what has happened with Keith. And so, yeah, I've been finding, you know, artists in London, you know, uplifting what has happened to him and calling for justice. And, you know, a pastor in New York, you know, speaking to his congregation about what's happened to Keith out here. And, you know, Congress people, you know, down south mentioning him, you know, on Capitol Hill. So, unfortunately, we're all feeling this collective pain, but I'm glad that his name is now coming up in these conversations, that we're now seeing him being brought up on national platforms, again, now by white men who all of a sudden know what happened and, oh, this was an American, whether it's being fueled by the fact that they're just trying to push their political agenda or not. We all want ICE out.
Yeah.
And so with the whole ICE out movement, now he's coming up in their algorithm, and now they're going, you know, they're doing the research, and people are, you know, digging into the stories, and they're seeing, you know, our original interviews with you and with Democracy Now!, and they've gone down the rabbit hole in a righteous way. And so now that momentum is picking back up again. And one of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership is momentum, you know. And so even with everything I do, like, I literally just had to close my office door now because people are starting to come in. And I'm just like, nope. It's fueling me to now want to galvanize this energy somehow and do more. Like, I still feel like I'm not doing enough. And you know how much I'm doing. You
and
know,
you're doing, yeah.
My walk. But I'm like, I still feel like I'm not doing enough. You know, I'm like, I need to get a delegation of community out to Oxnard, and we need to walk those streets, and we need to be blasting this everywhere out there.
Well, when
you know,
yeah.
So.
Well, we're up against the clock here, Miss Tyler, but my mic is your mic. So if you go into Oxnard, we roll into Oxnard. You know what I'm saying? My mic is your mic, and that offer is extended to your entire family. And we will keep saying his name, and thank you to everybody in the delegation who's doing so, because I do believe when we fight, we win. And you're fighting, girls. So thank you and condolences, and thank you for spending the time with us this morning.
Thank you, Dominique. Thank you for having me, Queen.
News, traffic, and sports, and then we're talking about your health next. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says he wants the United States to remain the global leader in cryptocurrency and technology.
New financial technologies are extending this American dominance into the 21st century, and that's why we're focused on creating a clear regulatory framework.
Speaking at the White House, Trump highlighted support for Bitcoin and digital assets as officials launch a new advisory committee. Former Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykin has filed a complaint accusing Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas of intimidation and official misconduct. Boykin, who is black, alleges the dispute stemmed from criticism of Pappas's mayoral ambitions, while Pappas has defended her actions. And frustration is growing in Northwest Indiana as nearly 92,000 NIPSCO customers remain without power. Some residents have been in the dark for more than a week, while utility crews race to restore service and community groups step in to provide food assistance. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers swept their three-game series at Colorado. They beat Colorado 6-4 Wednesday night in 10 innings. Mookie Betts was 3 for 5 at the plate with a homer and an RBI single in the 10th. The Dodgers picked up a game on Milwaukee for the best record in Major League Baseball. They trailed Milwaukee by only a game and a half. Milwaukee lost last night to Seattle. The Board of Regents at HBCU Texas Southern University voted to approve the hiring of men's basketball coach Corey Lowry, a former assistant at Seton Hall. Lowry is not the coach the players and students wanted. They wanted interim coach Sharon Chapman to keep the job. The entire team joined a large group of students on Tuesday for a protest outside the administration office. It'll be interesting to see what their next move will be and how they react to the Board of Governors' decision. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. My big mama used to say that there are 24 hours in a day, 12 hours to mind your business, and 12 hours to leave other folks' business alone. So, let's talk about our business, Crenshaw business. For over 5 years now, the good people of the Crenshaw corridor have lived in a gated community, but not by choice. Gates, fences, barricades, limited street access, closed lots, and then some. By now, you've heard the stories from the folk who've lived this nightmare. Business owners have lost customers. A charter school lost students. A veterinarian lost clients. Churches have lost members. And still, Procrastination Crenshaw sits unfinished. And when I say sits unfinished, I mean sits unfinished. Nobody was seduced by the Jedi mind trick they tried to play when they ran that headline on the front page of a local black newspaper about the project restarting in weeks. I mean, come see for yourself. The only trucks on Crenshaw are deconstruction trucks. It took a minute, but to her credit, LA Mayor Karen Bass showed up and she's leaning in on getting our parking back. But think about this for just a second. LA is not Chocolate City, and yet we are blessed to have a black mayor and a black city council president. But where is the black city council president? Where is Marquise Harris Dawson? This is his project in his district, but he has been strangely quiet. Did you notice in the recent Los Angeles Times story about Procrastination Crenshaw that neither Marquise Harris Dawson nor Destination Crenshaw had a word to say on the record? The silence was deafening. When people ask me why the silence, all I can say is, good question. As a reminder, the Crenshaw Corridor community sent him a letter, and it laid out real demands. A public timeline, relief for the businesses that have suffered, and an audit. At the moment, the last one matters most, the audit. Here's the thing, the foundation money, the private donations, that's their business. But this project is also funded by city money, state money, and federal money. I refer you back to the front page story in that black newspaper where they all talked about this. Go read it again. In any event, it's your money. And when public money goes into a $100 million project that still sits unfinished, the public has a right to see where every dollar went. Contracts, budgets, payments, schedules. That's not too much to ask. Again, it's your money. Our letter gave Mr. Harris Dawson a deadline, Friday, September 4th, to respond. The clock is ticking, Mr. President. 12 hours to mind the public's business. And this is one of them. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
How did you want it?
KBLA Talk 1580, welcoming in a board-certified gynecological surgeon practicing obstetrics and gynecology at Kaiser Permanente for 30 years. She specializes in all kinds of treating all kinds of complex diseases of the pelvic organs, and she has a special interest in using lifestyle medicine to manage chronic disease and help women age with optimal health and ageless vitality. Sounds good. She's got her bachelor's from Stanford and her doctorate of medicine from UCLA. Dr. Tracey Sylvester, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Good morning. So happy to be here to talk with you this morning.
Great to have you in. I know you're probably in between surgeries and having a very busy morning, so thanks for spending some time with us. You know, when we think of gynecological health, I don't think most of us relate that or even consider what that means as we go through the different stages of life, and particularly as we become, as I like to call it, seasoned.
Yes. And I think, that's a great point. A lot of times gynecological health is focused on obstetrics, is focused on, reproduction, having babies. But most women will spend a great portion of their life, a majority of their life, in that seasoned state, in that perimenopause, postmenopause state. And so there's a whole realm of this post-reproductive health care for women that I think really needs a light shown on it. It really needs more attention paid to it. So because we're spending so much time in that state and so many health changes are occurring, it's great to have an opportunity to bring attention to that phase of life.
And most of us kind of just don't know anything about that, right? I mean, we just go along, and I imagine there's some things we're supposed to be doing and paying attention to.
Yes, exactly. And, we get a lot of preparation when we're younger, like the changes that are going to happen with puberty. Everyone gets, quote unquote, the talk and gets ready for that. And so I like to think that we need to bring back the talk for women going through the opposite of puberty, sort of the perimenopause, menopause transition. And so bringing that to the forefront, having women talk about it, talking to your friends about it, just like you would whisper on the playground about what was going to happen for puberty, we need to start talking about it as we transition into other phases of life. It's why, events like the WisePause Wellness event coming up on Saturday are so important, really bringing this to the forefront, gathering women together to really talk about it. And it is a time to figure out, how do you want to age? How are you going to go through this transition? What health markers need to be really looked at, optimized, refocused on, so that we can have longevity and vitality. That's what I think everyone is looking for.
Yeah, the WisePause Conference, of course, we'll talk about that. That's coming up Saturday, and it's really a great resource for men and women who are, going through different phases of life. Because I was thinking, as you were saying, we should have the talk again. Who's going to have the talk with you when you're grown and sexy? Like, who's going to sit you down and say, life is about to change, girl?
Right. And I do think that part of that is what my responsibility is as a physician, as all physicians. If you're taking care of the whole person, we got to make you aware that this is happening. A lot of times it's going to be the patient that brings it up. They're experiencing changes that they can't really explain, or a very common thing people say is, I just don't feel like myself. Like something's happening, I can't explain it, but I don't feel like myself. And that brings them into the office. But it's really our responsibility as healthcare providers to prepare all people for what their bodies might be experiencing, changes they might be going through. And then again, I think girlfriends need to talk about it. Sometimes these things are, kept quiet, kept private. Mothers to grandmothers, mothers to daughters, we need to open up those lines of communication in this area as well.
A lot of our moms are not trying to talk about that. I mean, especially as Black women, our moms are like, yeah, no, we're not having that talk. But I'm lucky. I have some older girlfriends, and they are very outspoken.
Right. And I always joke, like, one of your best allies is like an older sister. You can just sort of push her forward and see what happens to her and have her answer the questions for you. But it is true that, like, this is, we share so much in community. I think for Black women especially, we build trust in community, and that's why I feel like this conversation needs to be brought into community. It's what I like to do out in the community is give these talks. I sort of go anywhere and everywhere because I really feel like the more we hear it, the more we gather together and talk about it. It takes, like, shame out of it, embarrassment out of it, and that's what will really benefit people. There are some tremendous health benefits that all women, and especially Black women, can benefit from. And if we don't talk about it, women won't get those treatments, and we're missing out on really important opportunities for health and longevity.
Can you give me an example of the kind of thing you're talking about that we might consider a treatment or a practice that would make a huge difference?
Yeah, so about 80% of all women are actually candidates for some sort of hormonal support, hormone therapy, as they transition through menopause. And of that 80%, very few are taking advantage of that. It's not only to ease suffering and help improve quality of life, but what we know from recent studies is that it actually decreases your risk of all-cause mortality. So this is treatments that can decrease your risk of dying of anything. That's, like, very big. Anything is very big.
Staying not dead is really a priority for sure.
It really is. It's the way to live. It really is the way to live. And so that is an opportunity that no one should miss out on. One thing we also know is that African American women and women of color will have a longer menopausal transition, more intense symptoms, more suffering, more disruption to quality of life. And so they could benefit even more so from getting treatment. And then again, that decreasing risk of all-cause mortality. There's so many areas where we are on the receiving end of the disparity of the worst health outcome. And so if there's an opportunity for us to do better, have better, feel better, I really want to make sure women have that opportunity to know about what's out there and to have those conversations with their physicians.
Yeah, a lot of important things that you're saying there. I think we think of hormone therapy as something sort of fringy, something Suzanne Summers does, but the average person doesn't. And perhaps that's why more of us, is that why more of us don't take advantage, or we just don't know? What's the feedback you're getting on that?
It's true. It's there was a time when the data was sort of in opposition to hormone therapy, and we sort of spoke about it in a much more riskier way. We sort of discouraged women for many, many years from seeking hormone therapy to alleviate symptoms. And then that data actually turned out to be misinterpreted. We were sort of incorrect in our evaluation of that data, and it turns out that these therapies are much more beneficial than we ever imagined. And women have been suffering for very long times, even as early as like mid-30s, well into the 50s, where we could intervene and help. So a lot of it does have to do with education. We need to climb back out of that hole that we dug. We need to build trust again. It's really hard when the doctor says, no, you should never do this, and then turns around and says, like, oh, you know what, I think it's a good idea now. and you know,
so true.
And in our community, medical mistrust is an issue. Like, it's a hill that we climb all the time. So I think We have to debunk a lot of myths and build trust, and that's going to take, person to person kind of work. And that's why I feel like in our community, is where we really build that trust. You believe things when you're sitting next to your girlfriend and she's nodding, and then your sister's also nodding, and your mother's like, yeah, I wish I would have done that. When we're all together and we can bounce these ideas off of each other and hear from the experts, hear from the data, I think that's what we have to do to re-educate and build trust.
Talking with Dr. Tracey Sylvester, MD. She's a board-certified gynecological surgeon, and we are breaking it down in honor of WisePause. WisePause.com. We'll continue the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Where the overlooked become unmissable, this is KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Bronwyn, and I've been in this neighborhood for 65 years.
All righty.
I was raised here, right on Crenshaw Boulevard. Ancestry, legacy, everything. No parking. In regards to our elderly, in regards to trying to get from one end to the other, 48th and 50th Street is a dead zone. You got to get off the bus and you got to make your way down in the middle of the block. I'm right across the street. I understand one of the things. I am happy to see you guys. I've been in too many meetings where you weren't there. I understand those who own the buildings and your properties. I understand those who rent from you. Here it is. Why can't we invest in each other?
Making sure they follow through. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Roger and Tracy saved over $18,400. Cynthia was recovering from a family tragedy and saved over $10,300. If you are drowning in debt, then call Debt Blue. Debt Blue is a professional debt negotiation firm with over 20 years of experience helping people pay back a fraction of what they owe. Learn how to cut your debt up to half or maybe more. Be debt-free in 24 to 48 months, even with bad credit. With an A+ rating from the BBB, you can rest easy knowing Debt Blue is going to deliver guaranteed debt reduction. Debt Blue offers a success guarantee. You pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved. That's right. You save money or it's free. Call now for significant debt relief and a free consultation. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879. You don't have to declare bankruptcy. This program works if you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in debt. Call for your free consultation today. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Dr. Tracey Sylvester, and she will be speaking at WisePause. WisePause is taking place this weekend. It's Saturday all day, and it's just an incredible gathering of different medical professionals, fitness professionals, inventors, innovators, all these folks who have all kinds of solutions, knowledge, and wisdom around getting older wisely, getting older consciously, and in the most healthy and harmonious possible way. It's a live summit, live and in person. It's at the Skirball Center here in LA. And you should follow WisePause even if you're not here, because they also have a lot of online offerings throughout the year. You can go to WisePause.com. It's perimenopause to postmenopause, which is actually, as you pointed out, Dr. Tracey Sylvester, a pretty long period of time.
Yes, and I think we have sort of neglected women in this transition in some ways, in thinking that, like, oh, you have to wait till you have your period stop, or you have to wait till you're in your 50s to address this. But women really notice these hormone changes much earlier, and so many of, like, the tumultuous late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s has to do with these hormone fluctuations. And there is help. There's, prescription medicine help, there's non-hormone therapy help, there's natural methods, and it's just something that, like, women need to take time for themselves and really explore ways that they can feel better. It's also a tricky time in a woman's life anyway. That's like sort of when we're at the top of our game, everything's happening, the kids are busy, your parents are getting older, your career is taking off. And so I think a lot of times women spend a lot of time focused outward and don't realize, like, sort of what's happening inward, and that they need a little time to take care of themselves, dedicate time to themselves, finding out what's happening in their own bodies and in their own psyche.
Yeah, I have 7 brothers and a lot of male friends, and I think it's important for men too, because I know that men get baffled when their wives and significant others start changing and they don't really know what to do or why.
I totally agree. I mean, this kind of information is important for women and anyone who loves and cares about women or knows women.
If you know any women.
Definitely
if you have a
important.
mom.
Yes, if you know any women, exactly. Because it can be quite a change and a struggle, and it really helps the more community women can build around themselves, the more understanding, the more support. Just, again, bringing it back to puberty, you have a teenager getting, like, sort of weird and awkward, and we just don't say, like, well, good luck to you. I don't know, now you're weird. No, like, we support them. We walk them through. We encourage them. We're there for them. And I think similarly for women, everyone around them, the more we know, the more we can be understanding and supportive. And that's certainly important if someone's in a relationship with a woman who's going through these changes. It's important to know how these changes are going to impact that relationship, how they're going to impact intimacy and communication as well.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of that, I think part of the shame, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we are kind of told that once you're menopausal or perimenopausal, you're kind of to be thrown away. You're no longer desirable. You're no longer on the market sexually or relationship-wise. And what does Kevin Samuels call us? Leftover women. Is that your experience of why we don't talk about this stuff?
I mean, I do think that is part of it. I mean, if you ask women, like, we know these are some of our best years. Like, we have it going on and we want to keep it going on. And so that's what the importance of pouring into yourself and not thinking about, like, sort of what you're losing, but I really like to encourage my patients to, like, think about what you're becoming and how you want to become this new person in this new phase of life. Intimacy can deepen, enrichen, relationships can deepen and enrichen, and so it's really important that we know we're not throwaway people. Like, this is the most, I think, important part of a woman's life, where you have the knowledge, you have the experience, you have the wisdom that you can pass on, that you can share. And we are very valuable, and we need to stay healthy, strong, and active to be a part of the community.
At the same time, we're getting the throwaway message. There seems to be a trend right now among younger women, younger men chasing more seasoned women. It's everywhere. It's on the internet. It's everywhere. Do you find? I mean,
everyone knows. Yeah,
everyone knows, right? So, is there a problem with that? Is there a challenge with that? Is there something women, older women, should know if they're going to be in the market like that?
It is true. Like, there are some physical changes that you cannot deny, right, that will happen. And so especially when it comes to like libido and sex drive and function and performance, there are some things that could help supplement those areas. And so, yes, like we want people to stay active and vital and intimate like their whole life long. But there are some things that we have to do or that we can do to support that, to keep those tissues working well and being elastic and being able to perform the way that we're used to having them perform. So, yes, this is a time to talk with your physician, talk with your healthcare provider about like what can I do to make sure that I can maintain my activity in all the areas of my life that I want to maintain them.
Right, including sexual activity, which I mean, not to be unscientific and crude, Dr. Tracey Sylvester, but I've read some actual scientific articles that seem to imply that you use it or lose it.
Right, and that is what I say to my patients. It's true, but to me, like anything is use it or lose it. You don't get to sit on the couch and say like I'm done with my legs, right? Like you got to use it and stay active, and so that goes for your intimate areas as well. And so everything craves like blood flow, stimulation, activity, that's any part of your body, and your intimate areas like your genitals, it's the same. So there's hormone support, there's lubrication support, there's things that we do to keep things sort of alive and well down there, but also just like any part of your body, you want to, take it out for a walk every once in a while.
Take it out for a while. Dr. Tracey Sylvester, I know you got to get back to work. I appreciate your spending some time with us. What would you leave us with this morning on the eve of WisePause 2026?
I would say that make sure that you're having these conversations with your healthcare provider. They might not bring it up, and that's part of what some of these healthcare disparities are, especially for African American women. They're less likely to have their provider bring up these issues, but you take it to their door and really invest in your health. Ask, what is the role for my health and longevity going forward, and what role does hormone therapy, menopause care have in that? Like really start to have these conversations with your provider and with your girlfriends as well.
Dr. Tracey Sylvester, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope we'll all do that because that's part of being advocates for ourselves. And we'll see you all at WisePause 2026. Denise Pines, who's the convener of that, joins me next after news, traffic, and sports, only right here.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A 17-year-old girl is in custody after Detroit police say she fatally stabbed her 20-year-old boyfriend during an argument on the city's east side. Police Chief Todd Bettison.
We always work on intimate partner violence to get individuals the counseling, the resources, and we'll continue to work on it.
Authorities say the victim died at the scene and the investigation is ongoing. Black Americans are disproportionately affected by Alzheimer's disease, but several major studies aimed at understanding why have lost federal funding. Researchers say the canceled grants focused on how discrimination and other social factors may contribute to higher dementia rates in Black communities. And Meghan Markle says privacy and safety remain top concerns for her children as she and Prince Harry prepare to return to the UK with Archie and Lilibet. The family is expected to live outside London in a private residence after 6 years in the US. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers swept their three-game series at Colorado. They beat Colorado 6-4 Wednesday night in 10 innings. Mookie Betts was 3 for 5 at the plate with a homer and an RBI single in the 10th. The Dodgers picked up a game on Milwaukee for the best record in Major League Baseball. They trailed Milwaukee by only a game and a half. Milwaukee lost last night to Seattle. The Board of Regents at HBCU Texas Southern University voted to approve the hiring of men's basketball coach Corey Lowry, a former assistant at Seton Hall. Lowry is not the coach the players and students wanted. They wanted interim coach Sharon Chapman to keep the job. The entire team joined a large group of students on Tuesday for a protest outside the administration office. It'll be interesting to see what their next move will be and how they react to the Board of Governors' decision. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This summer, the Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich and Pineapple Dragon Fruit and Sprite are back at Chick-fil-A.
Let me tell you about the Pineapple Dragon Fruit and Sprite. It's bright, it's bubbly, it's back.
The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich, it's so rich, and you can choose between the original or the spicy filet.
Ooh, boy.
And then you got those pickled jalapenos tucked right under the filet, and then just to top it all off, you've got a little honey drizzle right on top.
Okay, now I'm a pimento fan.
And I'm feeling the dragon fruit.
Which fan favorite will you choose? Real customers paid for their testimonials.